everybody and welcome to a video. Today we are talking about me as an author and my books. I recently published my newest book, Life Simplified, and I'm here with Maddie, and she's going to ask me a couple of questions about my books, and I have no idea what she's going to ask me, so let's see how this goes.
Why did you start writing books?
Okay, this is a very good question. So at first, maybe I should say my first book is Rocky Au Pair, yeah? It's an au pair advice guide. So I used to be an au pair and I traveled the world, and then when I moved to the UK I was a nanny, so I was a lot in this family and au pair nanny scene, and so I knew a lot about it, and I had this idea about writing a book for au pairs, and so when I was a nanny I just started writing this book. First I was just writing blog posts, and then I thought I should make it into a whole book, and then I actually never planned writing any more books. But it just kind of developed. As I was writing the first book, I started to think about the second book, and then I started to think about the third book. So now I just finished the first draft of my third book, but I'm still writing it. And I'm thinking about my fourth book. So it kind of all just developed over time. It wasn't really that I was always thinking about being an author.
Okay, got it. What did inspire you for Rocky Au Pair? I'm gonna ask you a second question at the same time. Mm-hmm. What kind of experience did you gain as an au pair and as a nanny?
Okay. So what inspired me to write the au pair book was just that over time I had so many different experiences, and I just wanted to share my experiences with other girls who had not been an au pair, especially girls who were starting to prepare for the journey. I had, to be completely honest, I had good and bad experiences. I think everybody knows that this can be a fantastic time, but there can also be bad times, or I don't know, just there's so many different facets to this journey. Everybody experiences loneliness or homesickness to some degree. Some girls obviously need to change the family if things don't work out. Me personally, when I first went to the US as an au pair, I also had to change families after 1 month, and so I definitely had very, very good but also some negative experiences, because when you think about it, that's really life. Like, whatever you do is not just about being an au pair. Whatever you do, you will have some good and some bad experience and things that you learn for life.
And where did you gain your experience in au pairing and being a nanny?
So my time abroad started in the US, in a small town near Washington DC, and then I continued to go to Australia. In Australia I was not just an au pair. I did this work and holiday thing where I was also traveling around and I was trying some other jobs, and those were pretty much the au pair jobs. I did live in other countries, but I was also working in the travel industry. Oh my gosh, I was working in the travel industry for some time in different countries, but my au pair experiences were mainly in the US and in Australia, and then nannying here in the UK. And obviously as a nanny I met plenty of au pairs here as well who shared their experiences with me.
Yeah. So in your book you talked about your experience and just like some advices for people who gonna be an au pair. And is it only your experience where you just like wrote everything down, or did you talk to other people about it and just made some notes about it and then just put everything together and try to make like an advice guide for au pairs?
That's a very good question. So actually I get this question quite a lot when people are interested in the book. So basically it's not just my story at all. I didn't want to make this just my story, because I feel that if I just write my story, that's really just one perspective, and that's not enough for someone to prepare for their journey. So what I did, I take someone from when they are still home, and I give them some advice how they can prepare before they leave for the au pair journey, and then I write about the arrival time, how to settle in, and basically I take them through the whole year and what they can expect. And then I add my own experiences in where I think it's necessary. I mean, it's always good to have some real life experiences. And then I interviewed quite a few other girls around the world as well, so that you can get an impression where, how it is to be an au pair in other countries. And I interviewed my host family in Australia, my host family in the US, and also one of the regional counselors in the US, because in the US program you always have a regional counselor.
Yeah, so I have a general question, not only in your first book but in the second book as well. You have so many interviews like in the back of the book. How did you get in touch with those people?
Okay. Yes, so the way I did it in my first book and also in my second book, I did it kind of similar. Well, in the first book, some girls contacted me through my website, because I told people on my website, if you are an au pair and if you would like to be interviewed, then please contact me. But mainly, to be honest, just by meeting people. So I meet people here when I go out, or somebody knows someone. Like I told my friends, I would like to have more broad interviews, more experience from other people, and they said, oh, okay, I know this girl, she's an au pair in Singapore, or I know this girl in Australia, and then they put me in touch. So this is another way. And now for the second book, it was a little bit different, because it's such a sensitive topic, because it's about love and relationships, and not everybody wants to talk about it. And it's really, really personal. So I mainly interviewed people that I met. For example, I go out a lot and I meet a lot of people. I go to events, and sometimes, and I just listen to my feeling. So I meet someone, and then I don't know, it's just like I feel they should be my book, and then I ask them and then they say yes or no. But usually they say yes if they should be my book, and if they don't, then then not. But I mean, I would say I have a very good way of finding those people.
How long does it normally take you to write a book?
Okay. It's so difficult to say, like, oh, it just takes you 1 month or 1 year or 2 years. Like, it could take you any amount of time, to be honest, depending on how much research do you need to do, how long, because it's not just me writing a book and then it's finished and it goes to print. It's me writing a book, and then the first proofreader goes through it, and then the second, and then the third. But every author does it a bit differently. But because I want to do a really good job with my books and deliver really good value, so it does go through various stages of proofreading and editing. And so for the first book, it took me about 2.5, nearly 3 years, but it's also because I was working full-time at the same time, and also I didn't really know how to publish a book. So it took me really, really long, I don't know, to figure it all out. And then for the second book, it was released less than a year after the first, and this is because I already knew kind of how to publish a book, but also I had already started writing the second when I was in the publishing process of the first. So I would say it could be anywhere between 1 month and 3 years. It's so unspecific, but yeah. I think at least a year. And it also depends if you write fiction or non-fiction, because I write non-fiction, and sometimes the things that I write about are personal, and sometimes I just listen to my feeling. Do I feel that this book needs a bit more time to develop? I don't know. So it's a bit different between fiction and non-fiction, I think. If you if you are a fiction writer and you have a storyline, I know other authors who say like I can write a book in 1 month because they have the storyline down.
Just in general, do you have a role model when it comes to authors?
Oh, okay. No one's ever asked me this. When it comes to authors, not really, although maybe one. Wayne Dyer, he wrote plenty of books that are kind of the same genre as what I'm writing. So I really, really like his books. And then in life in general, one of my very big role models is Tony Robbins.
What did inspire you to write an advice guide for a love life? And did you know at the beginning what you want to write down in the book, or did you just start writing it and then you just wrote everything down and you were like your mind was developing and you thought about, okay, I could write this down, and you just wrote down, I want to write this down and took notes?
Yes, so for the first question, why did I actually start writing it, or altogether, why did I write it? I wrote it because I feel that a lot of girls struggle with today's dating life, and I admit I also struggled with today's dating life because it can be very confusing with all of the different apps. And the thing is, when it comes to dating, there's always so many voices, and probably you know this too, like one person says this, the other person says this friend says you should do it this way, or another friend says this, and you watch something on TV, they say something else. So I find this really confusing, or I used to find this very confusing. Now actually I don't find it as confusing, but it kind of all started about, in the summer of 2015 when I went through a really difficult breakup, and I was just thinking, I want to figure this out now. So I read almost all dating books, probably not all, but a lot, really a lot of dating books. And then I went to events and I listened to a lot of podcasts and I watched YouTube videos. Basically, I just wanted to know more about relationships and dating. And then when I consumed all this information, I kind of processed it. And that's when I started to write this. And actually, now to the second question, I just started to write, and I didn't really know the structure of the book yet, but I kind of knew that it would come to me. So then a few months later, I was sitting at Hamburg Airport, and then it was like, bing, the structure of the book came to me, and I just wrote it down, and then I continued along with those topics. I knew the structure roughly, and then I just continued researching and writing, and that's basically how it all came to be. By the way, sorry for the background noises. It's raining a lot, so you can probably hear it.
When you started your book Love Life Simplified, in the book it's a lot about your experience, and you're talking a lot about Joe and yourself and the relationship, but it's an advice guide. So did you talk to other people about it and try to put their
perspective?
And try to put their perspective into the book?
Yes, I talk to a lot of people. To be honest, I talk to a lot of people about relationships all the time because I think it's such an interesting topic, and I always ask how is this for you, or how does it work in your relationship? And this doesn't mean that I will write down this story, but it kind of goes, I just take this down and I don't know, it's just like I save it in my mind, and then I research things and I read books, and then when I read books I'm thinking to myself, is this what I experience? Is this what my friends experience? So I try to bring it all together and write what I think is true. This doesn't mean that what I say you have to do it, or that's all. I mean, I never say in the book like you have to do this, this and this, because I don't like this type of dating advice. I also say this in the book. I don't really like when people say these are the 10 steps to do such and such, or I don't know. I think every relationship is very different, and everybody has to find their own way. And yeah, so it's my experiences, other people's experiences, and research combined, I would say.
Right, and how do you do research? Are you just reading books and think about, yeah, I could write this down and just like get the general information out of the books, and then you Google it, or what do you do?
I read a lot of books, yes, and so mainly reading, podcasts, videos, events, so all of these things combined. And it's not that I summarize books in any way. It's more like I read them and then I'm like, I haven't thought of this, or oh, this quote is nice, because I also have quotes in my book, and then I take notes of this, or come across something I haven't thought about, and then I think, oh, maybe I should consider this more. So yeah, this is how I do research.
Okay.
And Google, of course. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions for me, feel free to contact me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!